It's Kim.
Good evening. Welcome to Star Talk. I'm Ken Eccles, and we're happy to have you with us on the program tonight. So we'd love to hear from you. We have a phone number for you. I think it's over here. Over here is where it used to be, and it probably still is. But if it's not over there, it's somewhere. So you can call that number if you want to get on the air. You can also email me at keneckleslive@gmail.com. So phone or email, whichever one works best for you. We hope you'll participate in the program tonight. And yes, it is warm enough now that I have to start running my fan here in the attic. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hey, Ken, it's Mark Marion.
Hey, Mark.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing okay. That's good. I'm glad you're doing okay. Uh, in a minute, you're gonna remind people about the stew this Saturday.
I will remind people about the stew. I will do that very, very soon.
Uh, they had a thing on Fox News today that Gene Simmons said you can pay him $12,000 and you can be his personal assistant for a day.
Wait. You, I paid Gene Simmons $12,000 to be his personal assistant. Is that right?
Yeah, that was on Fox News. It's on the internet too.
Okay. Well, it seems to me he should pay me to be his personal assistant.
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh, and I want to remind Charleston Danville tonight is Mass Singer night on Fox 8 or your local Fox station at
Yes, it
8
is.
p.m.
It is. It is. And I'm glad you reminded Charles because I know he would forget if you didn't remind him.
Yeah, I was gonna tell Charles Rourke today that I watched American Idol the other day Sunday. They had a guy that sung. They had a guy that's singing that song "Corn," "Freak on a Leash," and "Drowning Pool." That song "Bodies." That's the first time I heard a hard rock. Somebody singing a hard rock song on there.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't realize that they didn't do hard rock songs, but now they have.
Yeah, they had it. That guy did two of them at night. That same guy, whatever.
All right. Well,
And
that's interesting.
Carrie Underwood was singing along with him when they're doing hard rock songs too. They call her jukebox Carrie or something like that.
Okay. Um, Good to know.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks again.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate your call, and I will, as Mark has suggested, remind you that the Mayodan Boy Scouts are cooking a stew the weekend of the 15th. That's this weekend, this Saturday. It's $9 a quart. If you'd like to order a quarter stew from the Mayodan Boy Scouts, call 336 949 4248. 336 949 4248. And you can pick it up at the Boy Scout place on 4th Avenue in Mayodan. That's this weekend, $9 a quart, the Mayodan Boy Scouts. So that is our stew update. Have an excuse me, have an email or two over here uh, to have a look at. Um, and heck, as long as we look at them, we may as well read them too. Just have to get to the proper email account. Oh, all right, that's pretty good. This one says, Ken, I'm very curious. What is. Wait a minute. I'm very curious. What was your favorite cartoon character when you were young? And your favorite superhero? Well, it's been a long time since I was young, and it's sometimes difficult to remember that far back about things. But I do remember my favorite cartoon carrier. My favorite cartoon character was Donald Duck. I always liked Donald Duck more than I liked Mickey Mouse. I don't know why. Um, I, I just did. So Donald Duck was my favorite cartoon character. Still is. I mean, I'll sit of an afternoon and watch Donald Duck for hours on end. What was the other one? Oh, favorite superhero. Well, that was Superman. Superman was always my favorite superhero. So I don't know why you wanted to know that, but that's not one of my secrets. I do, of course, like everybody else. I have a deep and dark secrets that I will not reveal, but those are not my secrets. Donald Duck and Superman. This one says, Ken, will Pretty Man be making his pick tonight? I want to be sure I don't miss it. Why? Why do you care uh, whether Pretty Man is making his pick tonight, and why do you not want to miss it? Uh, why, I don't get it. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
How you doing tonight, Ken?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. I finally got in touch with Charles this morning. I had to go give out my security codes and, you know, social security number and my firstborn male child and all that stuff just to get to talk to him. But finally got in touch with him.
You mean Charles from Danville, you mean?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, that's hard. He's not easy to reach.
I'll tell you, he's got one security system that you just wouldn't believe, man. I'm telling you, it's like kind of like Fort Knox. I believe I talked to Trump easier than I could him, but finally got the conversation going.
What did you learn?
Nothing.
Yeah, that's pretty close to my experience too.
No, we supposed to hook up next week sometimes. He had some stuff going on this week, and so did I. My neighbor's been sick with the flu, and I've been kind of looking after her. She's 85 years old, and
Oh.
family's out. I've been kind of helping her out some this week.
Well, good for you, and I hope she'll be better soon.
Yeah, I hope so too, Ken. Did you get to see the infomercial about Donald Trump and the Teslas yesterday, last night, or today?
You know, I didn't see it, but I did read today that the one he bought has 37 recalls against it.
37?
Yeah, there are 37. I forget what the model is, but that model has had 37 recalls issued. So he's going to have to drive. Well, obviously he's not going to drive it. He's going to have his assistant drive it to a Tesla dealership and have all that looked at. They have issues with the steering. There's something about the steering that it's been recalled for. I don't remember the whole list of things. I know the steering is the one I really notice. That's fairly important.
Yeah. It comes in handy when you're driving. It does. My understanding is, Ken, those Cybertrucks, if you wreck one, it's hard to get parts for them because they're not making a lot of replacement parts for them. So, to me, if you look at the front end of that truck and you're going to go green, with a battery type thing, it's like to me you put a little more of a point in the front of it so it'll be a little more aerodynamic. But that thing's just like a brick wall in the front, just about straight up.
Well, yeah. I guess so. I mean, it's kind of the opposite. Like, basically every car looks alike now. A very few difference. Every car pretty much looks alike because they figured out one aerodynamic shape that's better than the others. But that's not the shape of the Cybertruck.
Yeah, well, if you ever put a Cybertruck on a NASCAR track, I guess we can just count that one out, I guess, as far as aerodynamic, because it just don't look right,
Well, when NASCAR is ready to put electric vehicles on the track, we'll see how that works. They already have truck races. Why not have a Cybertruck division? They could do that.
Yeah, that would work. Yeah, I'm sure that would bring a mega crowd in. I'm pretty strong, but what do you think about this Department of Education being cut in half? Don't you think that's a no-brainer? I mean, kind of a stupid move.
Uh, I think a lot of school systems around the country are going to lose money uh, because of it. So I guess if you look at it from the standpoint of taking money away from schools is probably not the best way to improve them, then that would be a question. I guess the question, well, when you talk about money, there's a lot of questions. There's a question of do you get the money, and there's a question of what do you do with the money, and there's a question of are strings attached to the money. But just in the general sense, I think the less money we provide for education, the worse off we are.
I agree, Ken. I mean, I Googled it today just to see what the state of North Carolina gets from the federal government for schools. And this year, they were proposed to get 4.6 billion this year. Last year it was 4.4, and the year before that it was 4.2. So, I mean, do the math on that. The same story also said if you divide it outright, 4.6 billion. That's equivalent to $2,470 per student from K through 12. That's a big old cut for the school system, you know.
It is, but now let's note there are possibilities, and nobody knows obviously for sure what's going to happen. It is possible that some of that money will be turned into block federal grants and will flow to the states anyway. Will that happen? I don't know. If it does happen, how much money will it be? I don't know. But that's one of the things that's being talked about and considered in Congress. So it may not be a case of the funding just disappearing. We don't know for sure yet.
Yeah, well, that's true. That is so true. But you know, look at everybody's property taxes. What an increase we got last year. I mean, I don't think the personal property owner can stand another tax increase for much of anything after. I mean, mine just about doubled. But I just don't see the public putting up for much more of that, you know?
Well, tax increases are not popular, whether it's property taxes or anything else. And I'll tell you, I thank the Lord it's not me. I'm not in this position, but I know people whose property taxes have gone up to the point that it literally is putting them right on the edge of making enough money to pay the bills and not making enough money to pay the bills. It has been really, really hard for some people.
Well, I imagine so, Ken, because you look at the average house now. I mean, you know, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and not a whole lot of yard with it. You're talking anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000, and I'm talking about Rockingham County too. And my neighbor's house next door, she's fixing to move pretty soon, but I think it's valued at like $375, and her property taxes now, as of this increase, is $2,550 a year.
Wow.
That's a lot of money for property taxes, and that's just the land it sits on, the 2 acres.
And it's not just here. I know somebody who lives in Durham County went through the same thing. Their house valuation of their house went up by over increased by over $100,000. It's a story everywhere.
Yeah, it is. It is. What do you think about this Palestinian student? The Palestinian down there was protesting at college last year, where and Trump wants to deport him now. Now he's here legally, but just because he was protesting, he's saying that he's a threat to national security and a terrorist. So does he not want to let anybody protest anymore? I heard him say yesterday it was going to be illegal, or he thought it would be illegal to protest against Tesla. I mean, when we get to that point where we can't protest, it's definitely something wrong with this country.
Well, obviously, it's not going to be illegal he said it was illegal to boycott Tesla. He would consider it an illegal act if somebody boycotted Tesla.
Right.
So I guess I mean, I guess anybody who's not going to buy a Tesla, I don't know if you would declare that a boycott or not. But I mean, getting back to facts, obviously the president cannot declare it illegal to boycott Tesla. That's not a possibility. Now, as far as the student is not a citizen. And I understand, obviously, the right to protest and the right to free speech and all that. But the student is not a U.S. citizen, so is not in the same category as you or I involved in a protest. And as far as I know, um, there has never been a test case in court. I mean, maybe there has been, but I don't know of it. A test case in court to determine if someone is in the country legally and is not violating any written law, can they be deported for expressing an unpopular opinion? I have no idea. Maybe there'll be a court case to figure that out.
I guess it's going to come to that, Ken. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as he's legally here, he should have the right to voice his opinion, no matter what it is. You know.
Well, I think everybody everywhere should have the right to voice their opinion. But I mean, I just don't know the answer. I guess
Yep.
we'll find out.
Yeah, just another one of those Trump court cases is going to keep us smothered for the next 2 years, it looks like.
Well,
Thanks so
there
much.
won't be any shortage of those.
Not at all. All right, man. Thanks for taking my call, and have a good weekend.
Thanks for calling. Good to hear from you. The phone line is open up there at that number. You can email us at keneckleslive@gmail.com. Hey, Ken, this is Jack. Put me down for the number 22, Joey Logano. Jack has the 22 for Vegas this week. Oh yeah, there's this other email, which in my mind, a very, very disturbing email. We get back to that one. Email wants to know if Pretty Man is going to make his selection tonight because the emailer does not want to miss Pretty Man's pick for the Vegas race. Let's do this instead of talking about that. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Well, good evening, Mr. Ken.
Good evening. Mark said to remind you about the Masked Singer.
I will put it on my calendar. The caller right there, me and him had a talk. I rerouted everything. The FBI could not find us.
Were they looking? Well, I guess it goes without saying that they were looking.
Well, they didn't find us. I rerouted it to 3 big computers.
Okay. 3 big computers. That ought to take care of it.
Yeah, especially if they're sitting in California.
All right. So I guess you're not at liberty to tell us what the two of you discussed.
No, sir. It's confidential information.
All right. All right. It'll probably be in the papers tomorrow.
Nope, it won't be in the papers. Even the conversation was shredded.
Okay. All right. Well, it sounds like you covered all the angles there, so I guess you're okay.
Oh, yeah. I cover all my tracks. I watch my back good.
All right. Then what else? What else is going on?
Oh, not much. I got to go in and do windows in the morning. I just got off the phone with my little Filipino girlfriend.
I'm sorry, you got a phone with who?
My Filipino girlfriend in the Philippines.
You have a girlfriend in the Philippines? We didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, yes, I do. I got her hidden away down there.
Well, that I guess is one place to do it. So, what did you meet her when you were in the diplomatic service? How did this get started?
That's confidential information.
Oh, confidential too. I should have known.
Well, I keep everything on the down low and keep it quiet, so nobody don't, no skeletons left behind.
And yet you did right here on national, not now, worldwide television. You let it be known that you have a girlfriend in the Philippines. Do you think it was wise
But
to do that?
well, they don't know where she's at. She's well taken care of. She's got plenty of food. She's got plenty of cash. She's got a nice place. Because of me.
All right. Well, that's good. We wish you joy.
Yeah, probably if I retire, I might just go down there and hide from everybody.
All right. That's fine. That's fine.
Yep. I just wanted to let everybody know, if you don't hear from me, I'm hiding in the Philippines, people.
You don't hear from him, he's in the Philippines, folks. Make a note of it.
Bye, sir. Bye-bye.
Thanks for calling. Wow. All right. That's cool. Anyway, emailer, I guess Pretty Man will be making his selection tonight. I personally don't care. I don't care at all whether he makes a selection or not. But he probably will, since this is the last night that we'll be on the air. And as far as you're not wanting to miss it, I don't understand. I really don't understand it. It's almost like Pretty Man is developing a following, maybe a fan club, a Pretty Man admiration society. That is kind of happening, and I'm not sure how we stop that. We do need to stop that. We really need to not let that develop any further. But right now I'm at a loss as to what to do about it. At a loss. Ken, I want to ask you about this computer chip thing, where the guy from China, well, actually, it's a guy from Taiwan, emailer. So we'll substitute Taiwan in, where the guy from Taiwan said they are going to start making their first of the line chip in the United States. And Donald Trump made the announcement, but didn't. And we'll finish that email in a second. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Hello, Ken. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, Ken. I'm fine. I appreciate what you said last night at the end of the show. But look, I got a bigger problem now. I mean, this problem is I can't solve it.
What is it?
Well, I love Charles from Danville. I love him to death. I mean, I see him every now and then come through here. I love him to death. But explain something to me.
Okay.
How are you going to hide from somebody and tell where you at?
I don't know. Apparently he has some level of security technology that he can tell them where he is, and they still can't find him. I'm not sure how that would work.
Okay, I thought maybe you could explain that to me. I tell you, I don't know. So, but anyway, yes. I was looking at the news this evening, Ken, and I was watching them. They're supposed to be going. Those people, there's two of that man and woman. They've been up in space for over a year now.
Yeah.
And I didn't know Elon Musk owned them with a rocket or spaceship or something before he sent it up there to get them.
Well, he has a vehicle that services the space station. There is a SpaceX vehicle that takes supplies to the space station. And the next time his vehicle goes up there, he's going to bring them home. At least that's what we expect, because the vehicle that they went up there in developed problems. That was a Boeing, manufactured by Boeing, and it got something wrong with it, and they weren't sure it could get them back safely. So that's why they've been stuck up there so long. So last year, NASA made a deal with Elon Musk that he would bring them home. The next time his vehicle went up, and that's what's going to happen. And those poor people, I hope they get home this year.
All right. But Ken, I mean, I don't mean to seem like I've been living on another planet or something, but I'd never even heard of Elon Musk until until Donald Trump became in office again this time.
Is that right? You really? You had never heard of him?
I had never heard of Elon Musk until then. He's the world's richest man now, I know, but I'd never had even heard of the man.
Well,
until
I don't know how you avoided. I don't know how you avoided it, really.
I guess I was living under a rock. I was like Charles. I was here.
Well, he's been around a good while, and has Tesla and SpaceX and all that stuff. So, well,
okay, so
now you know who he is.
Exactly, but see, they had a rocket go up here. Where was it? Was it last month? And it blew up, right?
Well, it's a different thing. Yeah, the last two SpaceX rockets have blown up shortly after launch. But those are not the rockets that carry the vehicle that's going to bring the astronauts back home. So no, that's not.
Okay.
Those two things are not related.
Okay, gotcha. I understand. All right, Ken. I appreciate you for taking my call and explaining some things to me there. Now I got my mind clear about Charles. No, I still ain't got that clear about Charles.
No,
we're gonna leave it alone.
I don't either.
We're gonna leave that alone.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, Ken.
Thanks for calling. And let's get back to this email about the Taiwanese chips. The emailer says, didn't he make that deal last year after the CHIPS Act while Joe Biden was president? Well, yes and no. How's that for a good answer? Yes and no. Last year, Mr. Wee, I think he pronounces it Wee, after the CHIPS Act was passed, he did announce that this was last year while Biden was still president. He announced that the company would expand its operations in the U.S. And mind you, they've been making chips in the United States for a long time in Arizona, but they have not been making that 2-nanometer chip. Which everybody is so crazy about. He announced last year that they would start making that top-of-the-line chip in Arizona and that they would invest $65 billion to expand their manufacturing in Arizona. So that was last year. He did that with Biden. But a different thing, though, now with the announcement with Trump, he reiterated that they'd be expanding and that they'd be making the top-of-the-line chip, but that they would be investing $100 billion, raising the ante from $65 billion to $100 billion. And then there's another part to that story that I have not seen publicized very much, and that is the government of Taiwan very tightly controls chip manufacturing in Taiwan. In fact, when you talk about the high-level, top-of-the-line chips, Taiwan, 90% of all those, 90% of them are made in Taiwan. And the Taiwanese government apparently wants to keep it that way because they got this law in Taiwan that says a company, even a private company, cannot export any chip manufacturing process without the permission of the Taiwanese government. They cannot legally do it. And since Mr. Wee has made these announcements about making the top-of-the-line chip in the U.S., the Taiwanese government has spoken up and said, no, he won't. He would have to have government permission to export that process to the United States, and the government will not give him permission to do it. So that's where that stands right now. It obviously they have the desire and the intent, which they've demonstrated for a year now, to expand in the U.S. and to make the 2-nanometer chip in the U.S. but their own government says they will not be allowed to do it. So that's where the story is right now, and I guess it's a cliffhanger at that point. Stay tuned for further episodes to find out what happens. This emailer says, Ken, it's Mr. Leaksville. Okay, let me get back to the other page of the great book. Mr. Leaksville takes the number 5 this weekend. All right, they write that down. I'm writing much more slowly these days. The reason for that is I like to be able to read it after I've written it. And I need to write more slowly. Mr. Leaksville has the 5 for next week. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please. Hello? Caller, are you there? Caller is not there. All right. Well, then we'll just move on. Phone line is open at that number. You can give us a call or send us an email at keneckleslive@gmail.com. Wait a minute. Okay, it's entered wrong. Password is not correct. I hate it when I do that, but I do it a lot. Sure do. Emailer says, Ken, you mean in a free country like Taiwan? In a free country like Taiwan, a private company cannot make its stuff somewhere else if they want to? Yeah, that's what the law of Taiwan is. The rationale behind that is what the Taiwan government says. The Taiwan government says, as long as we are dominant in these chips, everybody needs these chips. And as long as we are the king of making these chips, then every nation in the world that wants these chips is going to defend us in case China attacks. Maybe it makes sense. This is what they say, that this guarantees their security, because no country in the world wants China to take over Taiwan, in which case then China would have control of 90% of those chips. So he says, as long as we keep that manufacturing here, the United States and everybody else is going to have to defend us if we get attacked by China. And that is actually their official policy. And that is why they have that law. And evidently, they're pretty serious about it. And they'll probably have a big court case over that too, is what I predict. But anyway, that is where it stands right now. Ken, looks like summer has started. What does the Old Farmer's Almanac say? The Old Farmer's Almanac says that summer starts on June 21st. Is what the Old Farmer's Almanac says, but we know better than that. We know it's summer before June 21st. Astronomical summer and meteorological summer are two different things, aren't they? So as far as the weather, the Old Farmer's Almanac says for spring, I haven't read it. I don't know. I'm embarrassed. You've caught me short because technically it's still winter. So I'm still operating on the Old Farmer's Almanac forecast for winter, which is it'll be real cold sometimes, and it'll be warmer sometimes, and sometimes there will be precipitation, and sometimes there won't be. That was the Old Farmer's Almanac winter thing, and I'm kind of still following that because it's still winter. When it gets to be spring, I will check and see what their spring forecast is. Hey, Ken, who's your driver for this weekend? What say you, Ken? My driver for this weekend is the 17. fact, there it is. My driver this weekend is the 17, Christopher, call me Chris Busher. Or is it Chris, call me Christopher Busher? I forget whichever one he wants to be called is the one other than what most people call him. So that's me, the 17. There it is. By the way, we were talking on the air. I was talking on the air with Martinsville before we went on the air. If you were listening on YouTube, you may have heard it, about Christopher Bell winning 3 in a row and how unusual that is. But eventually worked our way around to Richard Petty, who once won 10, count them, 10 races in a row. But we kind of agreed it's probably harder to win 3 in a row now than it was, not that it would have been easy to win 10 in a row, but it's probably more difficult now to win 3 in a row than it would have been to win 10 in a row back in those days, because pretty much everybody, with just, 1 or 2 exceptions a week maybe, everybody's got factory support and good top-line equipment and all that. Whereas in Richard Petty's day, everybody didn't have that kind of support. I heard Richard Petty say once, he was talking about the differences between then and now, and he said one of the big differences was back then, if you were the best shade tree mechanic, you were going to win a whole lot of races, he said, and we were real good shade tree mechanics. So that's kind of the way it was back then. Plus, didn't they used to have like 120 races? They used to have just an incredible number of races every season, on into the 60s. They were having all those races. So anyhow, it's a different era, and it was certainly a fine accomplishment for Richard Petty to win 10 races in a row. But winning 3 in a row now, that's pretty stout. I guess Kevin Harvick, I think, was the last one to do it in 2018. Is he going to win 4 in a row? I don't think so. In fact, does anybody think he's going to win 4 in a row? Everybody who's made their picks so far, nobody has picked the 20 to win again. So the public, at least most of the public, some of the public, has spoken on that point. Well, here it is. I don't see anything else going on, so I guess I'm going to have to read it. Hello, Eccles. He says, it is me, pretty man. And you are correct. The public has caught its imagination. I'm just going to read what he wrote. The public has caught its imagination and has begun to know that Pretty Man is the great intellect of NASCAR racing. Maybe you can get a T-shirt. Why don't you get that on a T-shirt? You can wear that one day, and then other days you can wear the one that has your lawyer's phone number on it. Have 2 shirts that you can switch between. The great intellect of NASCAR racing. And it is I, Pretty Man, to proclaim the winner of last week's race in Las Vegas. It's this week's race in Las Vegas. This week's race and not last week's. So proclaim the winner of last week's race in Las Vegas, which will actually be this week's race in Las Vegas. And the winner is, may I have the envelope, please? This is not necessary. You don't have to do this. May I have the envelope, please? The winner of the Las Vegas race, in the eyes and mind, such as it is, of Pretty Man, will be the car number 5, Kyle Larson. Pretty Man, I take Kyle Larson, the car number 5 for Las Vegas. All right. Those of you who were waiting for that, and I have absolutely no idea why you were, but there it is. Pretty Man takes the 5. Um, if I was Kyle Larson, I wouldn't feel good about that. I think that's the kind of thing, having Pretty Man on your side. That's the kind of thing that probably means you're going to have a wheel fly off again. So we'll see how that works out. Let's see. Somebody has sent me a picture of a sign. It says Immigration and Nationality Act, Section 237A.4 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, codified in 8 U.S. Code 1227. And we quote from the United States Code: an alien whose presence or activities in the United States the Secretary of State has reasonable ground to believe would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States is deportable. And that is absolutely the law, and there it is. Um, the law did not make it easy, though, by precisely defining what would have potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States. So that, of course, is where that's the same with every law. That's where it gets a little bit fuzzy, is determining exactly what would fall into that category. Now, the Secretary of State, that's pretty high authority. And I would imagine that by and large, if the Secretary of State makes that determination, that's going to carry a whole lot of weight, I would think. But would somebody challenge that in court? I have no idea. And if somebody did challenge that in court, what would happen? I have no idea. But I guess the overarching point here is the law does give the Secretary of State, who works for the president, and I imagine would be pretty much agreeable with the president's opinion, the ability to deport someone, even if they're in the country legally, if they think their behavior meets the language there in the law. And thanks, emailer, for sending me that. That's because I obviously would not have been able to quote that law without your assistance. This emailer says, how come you don't like Pretty Man? I think Pretty Man is a very popular individual and probably has a great following in the community, even though nobody knows who the blank he is. So why don't you like him? Well, I do know who he is. And I can tell you, if you knew Pretty Man, you wouldn't like him either. So that's about the best answer I can give you to that. You may like him, but you don't know him. So that's where I will leave that one. Here's one about the White Mill in Danville. Everybody know what the White Mill is in Danville. Emailer says, Ken, I got to say, as a resident of Danville, Virginia, it is a great thing to see the old White Mill looking as good as it is beginning to look now. What a sad sight it was for all that time. And now it's come to life again, and it's a pleasure to go through downtown and see it. And I hope everybody in Danville, or everybody even who's not in Danville, is as glad as I am that this thing, and it was just a big, empty, ugly thing, is now worth having and worth looking at again. So hooray for the White Mill. Well, Well, thank you, emailer. Everybody, I think everybody knows what the White Mill is, right? It's the one right down there next to the river, and it used to have that big sign on it, home of Dan River Fabrics, that you could see for miles out there on 58 East coming into Danville. You could see that miles away. And yeah, it was a bad thing, ugly thing for a while. It really was. And now it's not an ugly thing anymore. So yeah, that is a good thing, emailer, and I'm glad that you are pleased about it and glad that that is happening. Hello, Ken. I am taking driver number 5, another 5 for Las Vegas. This is Captain Midnight. Captain Midnight takes the 5 for Las Vegas. Now, I hope, Captain Midnight, I hope you're not taking the 5 just because Pretty Man took the 5. I really hope you're not. I hope you're not going to fall into a pattern of doing as Pretty Man does. That would be very unadvisable and really a very dangerous way for you to manage your life. So I hope that you came to that conclusion independent of the Pretty Man. We should all be independent of the Pretty Man. Oh, and here is the Lady in Black. Okay. I think she hangs out with Captain Midnight. Not sure. Maybe I shouldn't say that since I'm not. I take it. I don't actually know if they hang out or not. The Lady in Black is taking the 12. Okay, 5 for Captain Midnight and 12 for the Lady in Black. I think, Lady, you're the first person to take the 12 for Las Vegas. Haven't heard from ChatGPT yet. By the way, we're going to start doing the thing that I think it was Nice Guy suggested last night. If somebody misses a pick, we'll go back 2 weeks and give you whoever you picked 2 weeks ago, so that if something happens and you're not able to make your pick, you won't end up having to take a 0 for the week. We'll do that. I believe that's a good idea. Ken, have you seen DeForest Kelley in these old Western TV shows that come on some of the channels? I saw him the other day. He was playing a sheriff in The Lone Ranger. It looks like he was in a whole lot of old Westerns. Have you seen him in any of them? I have seen DeForest Kelley in some old Westerns. In fact, I saw him as the sheriff in that was it a Lone Ranger? Was it a Lone Ranger or a Cisco Kid? Yeah, I think it was a Lone Ranger. DeForest Kelley was a sheriff, and he wasn't all that good a sheriff. I was disappointed. I didn't think he was really all that good a sheriff. He wasn't a crooked sheriff or anything like that. He was just kind of, I don't know, just not entirely on the ball as a sheriff. But that's the way they wrote him, and that's the part he played. DeForest Kelley, I'm sure I don't need to tell most of you, but in case I do need to tell some of you, DeForest Kelley later became famous and stayed famous as the Dr. Bones on Star Trek. But before that, he was in a lot of Westerns, a lot of TV Westerns, and yeah, I have seen him. You know who I also saw was Denver Pyle. Denver Pyle, a.k.a. Briscoe Darling of Mayberry, or the hills near Mayberry. I've seen him in a couple of those Westerns, and he's always been a bad guy, always a really, really bad guy in every one I've seen him in. But he used to be skinny. Imagine that. He was skinny. By the way, let me remind you of the stew, since it might be my last chance to remind you of the stew before Stew Day. It's coming up this Saturday, the 15th. The stew is courtesy of, if you pay for it, the Mayodan Boy Scouts. It's $9 a quart with proceeds to help the Boy Scouts. And if you'd like to order a quart of stew from the Mayodan Boy Scouts, the number to call is 336-949-4248. So give them a call if you've got a taste for some stew. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good evening to you, Ken.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, sir. I hope you are.
I am.
Cool. Question for you, actually. Trivia
Okay.
question.
All right.
You mentioned Briscoe Darling.
Yeah.
The Darling family had various brothers that didn't speak.
Yep.
Can you tell me the name of the bluegrass band that they actually belonged to?
Okay, I know it, and I can't think of it. The Dillards.
There you go. Well done. Well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, they were actual musicians, actual band, the Dillards.
I have seen them multiple times in concert. Yes, indeed, I have. They are quite good. Well done, sir. You answered the trivia question well. You get a good grade for tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for calling. I get a good grade. He didn't say anything about any material reward for answering the trivia question. Perhaps he overlooked that, and he'll call back or send me an email informing me of what I have won for knowing the Dillards. Ken, can you read the picks so far? Yeah, I got time. Here are the picks so far. Mark from Mayodan, the 11. Leon, the 8. Charles from Danville, the 45. Nice Guy, the 9. Mr. Pelham, the 8. Citizen D, the 24. Liberal, the 24. Mr. Draper, the 5. Early Bird, the 22. Jack, the 22. Mr. Leaksville and Pretty Man and Captain Midnight all have taken the 5. And the lady in black takes the 12 for Las Vegas. Still have a few folks outstanding, but I'm sure they'll get theirs in. Hello, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Ken, I know I haven't got but a minute or two.
Okay.
I watch soccer and hockey, and I keep seeing the offsides.
Yeah.
Do you know what designates somebody being offsides? I never have been able to figure it out.
In soccer, you are offside if you're an offensive player. You're on the team with the ball, and if you're in your attacking half of the field, if you receive a pass while if a ball is passed to you while you are the behind every defender except the goalkeeper. In other words, if you have outrun all the defenders and only the goalkeeper is left in front of you, they cannot pass you the ball while you are beyond the defenders because you are offside in that situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
In hockey, I think, I'm not sure the offside rule in hockey. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll have to look it up.
That's why I called you. I don't expect you to know everything.
Well, good, because I don't. But I can't bring to mind what the offside rule is in hockey. I'll look it up, and maybe you'll look it up. If you don't look it up before next week, call me back, and I will have looked it up.
Okay. Look, appreciate you taking my call.
Thanks for calling. And that is all the time we have for Star Talk. We're on the air Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. I hope you'll join us next time. Thanks for watching. I'm Ken Echols.